Hi guys, my name is Naz and today we're talking about Paul Thomas Anderson's newest film, One Battle After Another. When the movie premiered in September 2025, it instantly set the film world on fire. Critics, audiences, and social media all ask the same questions. What is this film really about? Is it political? Is it satire? Is it a masterpiece? Today I want to talk about the film's key elements, PTA as a director, the story, the characters, the visual language, the music, and the ideas hidden beneath the surface. By the end, I'll try to answer three questions. What is this film really saying? Why did the political debates only grow louder? And does it deserve an Oscar? So let's start with PTA. Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the most influential American directors working today. He's known for emotionally intense films about deeply flawed people, and he never divides them into heroes and villains. Everyone is human. At the core of PTA's work is America itself. Magnolia shows a country bound together by chaos and coincidence. There Will Be Blood explores how capitalism, oil, and faith shaped modern America and what it cost. One Battle After Another continues this tradition. The film looks at the open wounds of American democracy, political extremism, fear of migrants, the crisis of the left, the rise of neo-fascism. But PTA wraps all this into an action film, a dark comedy, and unexpectedly a very tender family story. Some critics accuse Anderson of taking sides, but as Sean Penn once said, PTE has no relationship with convention, he doesn't follow ideology, he observes it from a distance and built his own world. A few words about the story. The film is inspired by Thomas Pynchon's Vineland, but postmodern literature is almost impossible to adapt directly. So Anderson didn't try to film the novel, instead he took its emotional core, a father-daughter story and the shadow of state power that hangs over them. In the book, the father is Zoid Wheeler, a former hippie who literally has to jump through a window once a year to keep receiving disability checks. Zoid Wheeler becomes Bob Ferguson. Pryor becomes Willa, and Brock Vaughn becomes the Colonel, a symbol of authoritarian control. The film's title. During early production, the film was known as the Battle of Beckton Cross, most likely a reference to the Battle of Algiers, which Bob Ferguson watches in the movie. But One Battle After Another ultimately describes the film much better. So what battles are we talking about? There are many of them. In the 40-minute prologue, the battle isn't only between the government and the French 75, it is also a struggle for Perfidia Beverly Hills herself. Strong-willed and unbreakable, she outpaces both the soft, indecisive Bob and the brave but reckless Lockjaw. As the story moves forward, the focus shifts to a different kind of battle, the fight for the body and soul of high schooler Wheeler, who gradually comes to embody the future of the country. If the film's emotional core is the personal conflict between Bob, Wheeler, and Lockjaw, the larger battle unfolds around underground networks like Carlos's escape operation and the remains of the French 75, standing against the power of the Christmas Adventurers Club. What we witness is the endless nature of resistance. Freedom fighters are arrested or killed and often disappear without a trace, yet the struggle continues. Carlos explains that his network has its own systems and procedures, meaning it can survive even if its leaders are taken away. The battle doesn't end, it really is one battle after another. Let's talk about the characters, starting with Willa. At its core, Willa's story is a coming-of-age story. Her identity is shaped by four adults, whether she wants it or not. First, her mother. Willa idealizes her, wants to be like her, sees her as a hero, and it's clear she inherits her mother's fighting spirits and refusal to blindly follow rules. We see it in small things, like hiding her phone from Bob and lying about it. That quiet rebellion comes straight from her mother. There is also a powerful visual echo in the film. Willa hears her first gunshot while still in the womb. Violence enters her life before she is even born. Second, her biological father. This influence is painful and deeply unwanted. The moment Willa learns the truth, she despises him. Her attempt to run away is symbolic. She is trying to escape the unbearable fact that part of her comes from a racist, a murderer, a man responsible for torture and death. But the uncomfortable truth is that she also inherits his determination and survival instinct. While Bob is clumsy, late, and constantly confused, her biological father is unbreakable, like that Terminator-like scene where Sean Penn's character walks straight through danger. Strength runs in her blood. Third, Bob. This is the emotional core of the film. Bob gives Willow what genetics never could: love, softness, family connection. At its heart, this is a father-daughter story, and without Bob, that emotional line simply wouldn't exist. If her biological father gave her strength, Bob gave her kindness. Her capacity for love comes entirely from him. That's the hopeful message of the film. Nurture can be stronger than nature. Because let's be honest, neither of Willow's biological parents are good people. Her father is a violent racist. Her mother betrays her friends and abandons her child at an age when a child's literal survival depends on a parent. There's a psychological term for this: deprivation. When a child is left without a caregiver, this experience is a form of inner death. And yet, Willow doesn't inherit her father's moral corruption. Morality is a choice, not blood. When she learns about her mother's betrayal, the shock on her face says everything. In Willow's moral universe, this is one of the worst things a person can do. And the fourth adult is Sensei. From him, Willow learns calm, clarity, and the ability to think under pressure. It takes bravery to face someone who wants to kill you, but it takes intelligence to survive them. The final sequence proves how much she has learned. Her decision is brilliant and unexpected. She understands the car won't be visible, that the crash might be her only chance, and that survival sometimes requires unpredictable moves. And even in that moment of panic when most people would act blindly, she still asks for the password because she refuses to kill an innocent person. Even then, Willow is strength, chaos, vulnerability, and wisdom all at once, shaped by four adults, but ultimately someone entirely her own. Perfidia and the Colonel. The film opens with Perfidia standing above a bridge while migrants remain below. The first 40 minutes are driven by her actions, and the rest of the film shows her consequences. As PTA says, consequences are chasing you. Without Perfidia, there would be no Willow, the film's the true central character. Perfidia betrays 3 times. She betrays Bob by cheating on him, she abandons her child, and she chooses witness protection over prison. She chooses herself even though this decision puts her husband and her child in danger. Perfidia represents people drawn to revolution, not for ideals. Even her sexual thrill from explosions hints that destruction is the only thing that truly stimulates her. Her relationship with Colonel reinforces this. They are 2 sides of the same coin, obsessed with power, control, and submission. Ideology means little to them. It's a tool, a playground. The staging makes this clear. In their first scene, Perfidia stands above while the Colonel lies below. Power belongs to whoever is higher. He watches her like predator, yet she still chooses him. Together they choose extremes and commit violence against people who do not deserve it. PTA is explicit. Perfidia is not a victim. She had choices and she made them. The Colonel, meanwhile, is framed as something almost mechanical, relentless, predatory, dehumanized. His fixation on Willow confirms this. His death is not random, both politically and visually. It echoes the imagery of fascism and gas chambers. He couldn't simply die in a car crash. Totalitarian systems ultimately destroy their own, using the very machinery of violence they created. Individuals die, but fascism, like the drive for freedom, continues to exist. Avanti is a hired assassin who never fully belongs to the ideology he serves. Treated as expendable, he follows one personal rule: he never kills children. His final decision becomes an unexpected act of redemption and ultimately saves Willow. The Christmas Adventurers Club. Although Colonel Lockjaw is the central antagonist, the true villain of the film is the Christmas Adventurers Club, a secretive organization of wealthy, powerful figures with deep ties to law enforcement and the military. Their ideology, openly discriminatory and extremist, drives the larger conflict. Not one man, but a system backed by money and power. Sensei. A Puerto Rican actor playing a karate teacher everyone simply calls sensei is already funny and very intentional. Sensei succeeds where the French 75 fail. He builds a real community, people who know each other, protect each other, and trust each other. That's a real revolution. In the middle of all this chaos, he's pure calm, a quiet stream cutting through madness. He saves people, always knows what to do, and somehow has connection everywhere. His activism is quiet, not explosive. He doesn't blow things up, he helps people. Contrast this with the film's opening. Left-wing revolutionaries free migrants in a cold, mechanical way. Sensei knows people by name, gives them shelter, and builds real human relationships. It's no coincidence there is a portrait of Superman in his office. He really is the superhero of this story. Bob, the reluctant hero. Bob Ferguson is fascinating precisely because he's not a classic hero. He's soft, indecisive, awkward, almost one step behind, and that's what makes him the most human character in the film. P.T. once said that being a loving present parent is real work, and Bob is the only adult hero capable of doing it. While his biological parents are dangerous, selfish, and absent, Bob may not be brave or strategic, but he is kind, loyal, and deeply devoted. His superpower is empathy. He's constantly squeezed between forces bigger than him. Left and right, past and future, violence and survival. Bob isn't political, he's just trying to keep his daughter alive. That's what makes him the most touching, authentic character of the entire film. Metaphors, unanswered questions. One of the first mysteries the film throws at us is time. When does the story actually take place? Nothing is clear. The film looks retro, like the 70s or early 80s, yet characters casually use iPhones. Neon lights mix with exaggerated modern problems add hints of the near future. None of it fits into a single decade. PTA creates a world suspended outside linear time, and that choice is deliberate. This story could happen anytime, or maybe it is happening all the time. Political extremism, state violence, cycles of resistance. These things don't belong to one era, they repeat themselves. PTA leaves many things deliberately unexplained. We never fully understand the Christmas Adventurers Club, we know almost nothing about Sensei's past, characters are captured, interrogated, and then disappear. People appear briefly and vanish forever. The film creates a world where individuals become ghosts, erased by a system that doesn't care about names or stories. Key metaphors and symbols. Whoever is higher has the power. Throughout the film, height equals domination. The colonel watches from above, helicopters, hills, staircases. When he loses power, he literally goes downhill. The pheasant inside the Christmas Adventurers Club symbolizes elite hunting culture, the illusion of freedom. Religion. Churches are places of refuge and threat. Religion becomes a metaphor for how any ideology can be turned into a weapon. Two kinds of escape. At one point, two escapes happen at the same time. Bob and Wheeler run from the state. Perfidia runs into the state, into witness protection. The biggest metaphor, endless resistance. PTA often hides meaning without explanation. Some symbols become clear only through interviews. Others may never be decoded. And that's a part of the magic. Take the tiger metaphor. PTA once called Sensei a tiger in a judo suit. And suddenly you notice big cats everywhere in this place. Portraits, patterns, textures. These details are never emphasized, but they quietly deepen the character. The film is full of moments like this, references we may never fully unpack. Another one is the escape scene that strongly echoes the Shawshank Redemption. The framing, the feeling of crawling out of a suffocating world into the unknown. Is this an intentional reference to ideological imprisonment or just a visual rhyme? I honestly don't want to overanalyze it. I'll leave that to PTA if he ever decided to talk about it. Music, visuals, and casting. The score was composed by Johnny Greenwood and it's crucial. The music creates constant paranoia and forward motion. The feeling that pressure is always building. Trembling strings tighten the tension, then suddenly give way to cool, almost jazzy piano. The score is present almost non-stop, but it never overwhelms. It constantly shapes the atmosphere. Visually, the film has that unmistakable PTA flow. The camera glides, circles, breathes. Some scenes feel like a single uninterrupted take, pulling us straight into the emotional rhythm. The film was shot on 35mm VistaVision and released in IMAX, a rare and demanding choice that gives even quiet moments a monumental scale. The cinematography feels chaotic and precise at the same time, while the editing is sharp, rhythmic, and often quietly funny. As for casting, it's outstanding, and a huge credit goes to casting director. Leonardo DiCaprio is perfect cast as Bob. This role works because he's at this exact point in his life. He's not meant to dominate the film, and that's the point. Chase is the heart of the movie as Willow, strong and vulnerable at the same time. Tiana Taylor is magnetic, her character drives the plot. Regina is warm and grounded, and Benicio del Toro as Sensei is simply perfect. Cinematic influences and Easter eggs. One battle after another is packed with references. Bob clearly echoes the dude from The Big Lebowski, the robe, the stoner energy, the accidental hero dropped into a much darker political world. There are musical layers too. When Sensei says, "You know what freedom means? No fear," he is quoting Nina Simone, a line Radiohead famously used to open their concert.
I'll tell you what freedom is to me. No fear.
After Lockjaw escapes the burning car, PTA drops Perfidia by Los Panchos, a mournful love song that directly mirrors the Colonel's obsession with Perfidia Beverly Hills. One small visual detail says it all. A road sign reading, "Caution, children." It's meant to protect kids, while the characters on screen are literally hunting them. And beneath it all lies the DNA of classic westerns. The clash between the left and the right. So why did the political debates explode? Because today, films are judged less by what they show and more by what audiences project onto them. PTA's film couldn't escape this. The right sees propaganda, the left sees warning, but PTA doesn't glorify either side. At its core, one battle after another is about endless battles, personal and political, and how their consequences echo across generations. The film is brutally honest about loyalty. People break not because they are weak, but because they still have something to lose, a child, a partner, a life. Empathy is the resistance movement's greatest strength and its greatest vulnerability. My take. For me, this film is ultimately about family. A coming-of-age story wrapped inside a political labyrinth. Battles never end, one finishes, another begins, but what truly endures is what's passed from parent to child. The fight to make the world better isn't one revolution, it's a relay. As Perfidia says at the end, "We failed. Now it's your turn." So, is it Oscar-worthy? Absolutely. It is layered, rewatchable, emotionally rich, and painfully relevant. A film about today and about all time. That's all. Thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this journey, like, subscribe, and stay with me for more.